Hey there, friends. Are we live? I think we're live. All right, listen, I have been practicing. I've been watching a ton of booktubers and just really practicing for this intro. So let's give this a shot. What's up, beasties? It's triple. No, wait, that's not my intro. Sorry, hold on. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Rowdy Player. Dang it, that's not right either. Hey friends, it's me, Molly Macabre. Welcome to Where the Macabre Things Are. Today, we are interviewing a wonderful self-published horror author. Without further ado, here is Steve Stark.
Hey
Hey Steve,
Molly,
how are you doing today?
good, yeah. Yourself?
I am doing well. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for being my very first live customer on my
Absolute
show.
pleasure and an honor.
All right, let's get into this. So, the whole reason that this is happening is because I recently read last month, I read A Hot Dose of Hell. I read that book in 10 days. It was absolutely fantastic, absolutely amazing, incredible. So, can you tell us, let's start with what were your inspirations for that book specifically?
Well, there were lots of things that were going on at that time, um, and one of the biggest things we've seen lately is a lot of virtue signaling behavior, a lot of people trying to puff themselves up to make out like they're nicer than they are when they're not really doing much.
Hmm.
So I thought it would be interesting to put some of those people in sort of up against the situation where it would strip that away and you would kind of see what they were really about. Um, and I did that in a couple of ways in the story. I did that with the actual them having to face what the harsh end of the worst end of homeless life is like and drug addiction, but also then when they're in that sort of life and death situation of dealing with the zombies.
Absolutely. Yeah, horror is a great way to kind of cut people down to what they truly are.
Yeah,
People can have this vision of what and who they are all their lives, but they don't really, I guess they don't really know themselves until they're faced with that kind of situation. So that's
yeah,
definitely an interesting way to do it. I want to talk about, I'm just going to jump right into this. I want to talk about the dialogue. So I'm going to be totally honest here. I opened your book up and I read the first few pages, and there was a lot of really heavy accents. And I was
yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I was worried. I'm just going to tell you that. I was like, man, is this going to pull me away from the story? And then what happened was, man, it just pulled me in. It was so I mentioned this in my review, but like it's weird to say that it was natural for me because obviously I'm not British,
Yeah.
but it sounded so natural. So I want to know, was that a worry for you that, international readers would be pulled out of that, or did you have any forethought into the dialogue or the way that you wrote it?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a concern that some of it might be a bit alien, but I thought if there's enough context, people get it. I've been able to read books from other cultures that are written in that sort of way with the dialect, and sort of start, even if you don't know, even if it's really heavy, you can start to pick up what it's about, can't you? So I thought if people are patient and they're brave and they kind of stick with it, they'll have the same sort of experience you had. And if not,
Exactly.
they can always go YouTube and find someone with that accent and then be like, right, I've got it now.
Yep, exactly. There were words that I had never heard before, but I had no issue because they were in such context. To give you an example, one of the words that I keep thinking about, one of them was prosy.
Oh
And
yeah,
I was like, I'd never heard that, but obviously the setting was a brothel, so I didn't have trouble picking up on that.
yeah.
But another one was caravel, and
Oh yeah.
I was like, I've never, and I don't know that that's specifically something British, but
No, that was a brand of like the car. It was just the type of
okay,
car that it was. Yeah,
okay. I was like, I've never heard this, but obviously people are getting into it and it has seating and they're going to use this to travel from one place to another.
yeah.
So it was really easy to pick up on a lot of things that were used. So I mean, that was well done, of course. Um, let's see. You know what? Let's shout out some people that are here. I've
Okay.
never done this, so let's see if I can do this right. Oh, there we go. All right, we've got Josh from Already Overbooked. Hey, Josh,
Hello,
thanks
mate.
for being here. this guy who likes to come into my live stream sometimes, and he's definitely not my husband. So strange. We've got E.H. Bradley, co-founder of Dark Veil Society.
Raymond.
We've got my absolute best friend in the whole world, Timothy Wolf, Meltmaster Fresh, who does the most
Oh,
amazing
he
reviews.
is so funny.
We've got the man himself, Rowdy. Aaron, thanks for being
Oh,
here.
cheers, Aaron.
Grifton, that room is not very horror authory.
It's not, no. This is exactly where I write. All I've done is I've swiveled the chair around. This is where I sit. I sit by the window and write. You got the
It,
record player in the background. Sometimes I'll stick a horror movie on the TV. But this is actually where I am.
nice. Well, it looks
Yeah,
very peaceful.
yeah.
If you read all of Stark's female dialogue, like the guys from Monty Python, that would be hilarious. Oh, we got Mark, avid book junkie. Thanks for being here. All
Cheers,
right.
Mark.
So you mentioned record player. Do you listen
Yep.
to music while you write?
Sometimes and sometimes no.
Okay.
And it's purely a mood thing.
Right.
I usually put on like movie soundtracks, and it's usually like 80s horror movies. John Carpenter synth stuff is going on in the background. Nothing with
Very cool.
lyrics. No lyrics. I can't be doing that. It'll get into my head and come out on the page.
I can't relate, but that's okay. So just movie soundtracks, any other types of music or
No, that's pretty much it. Or I'll have a movie on in the background. But yeah,
gotcha.
something that's not too. I find it intrusive if it's got lyrics. I find
Yeah,
it'll get to me, and I'll start hearing the
that makes
words and
sense.
start singing along with the words, and
Then
it's
you're
no good.
typing the words.
Exactly. Yeah. Why are they breaking into song all of a sudden when they're being attacked by zombies?
It would be unique, let me tell you. It
Yeah.
would be unique.
Hot Does It Hell, the
Um,
musical.
were were any of your characters like what was the inspiration behind them? So I liked Roxy's character a lot. She had oh man, I mean you just
Bless
really
her.
felt for her.
Yeah.
But I loved Rhonda. She was such a strong character, and I'm just curious, were they based on people that you knew, or just you just created them from scratch?
Yeah, little elements of different
Okay,
people. I've met a lot of people along the way with interesting backgrounds. Myself, I worked in security for 15 years, nightclub security mostly, and I did some work as well with like young offenders and things like that. So I've met lots of people from quite tough backgrounds, really. So there'll
yeah,
be little bits of people in there, but nothing
okay,
in particular. Rhonda's got a little bit of me in there, but I won't
okay,
tell you what that is.
okay. Excellent. What inspired this story in particular was, I guess, did you have like movie influences, or did it all just come into your brain and come out on paper?
Yeah, there's probably is some movie influences in there. Lots of like the 80s splattery stuff. Um, I remember I'd written a good chunk of it and got to the scene in the bathroom in the brothel,
Mm-hmm.
and originally I kind of left it suggestive to what happened, and then it cut to the part with the body flying out the window, and you don't really know what's going on in that room. And my wife was like, "This is yours. Why don't you just write it like all those mad movies you love? Just go for it." So then that scene, I just got really carried away with that scene, and that kind of became my style. So yeah, very
Excellent.
influenced by that sort of era of movie, I think, as
Excellent.
well as the books from that time.
Yeah. That is a great lead in to what I want to ask next because after the body gets thrown from the window, you start talking about how gulls are attacking the body. And I was
Yeah.
like, gulls. And you're talking about how big they are. And I was like, what what British term could this be? What is attacking? And then you made that incredible description of their wings spreading like a a drunken
Like a
brawler
come on
prepared.
gesture. Yeah.
Yes. And I was like, oh no, these are actual like seagulls. And so are the seagulls that dangerous? Are they different than the way they are over here?
Yeah, we hate them. General, the British people generally can't stand seagulls. They're absolute terrors. They really are. Like if you're in a seaside place in particular, like it's funny. Where I am now is a lot of seagulls, and just walking down a high street, you are guaranteed to see at least one person get attacked. At least
Oh
one
my
person get attacked for their
gosh.
food. Yeah, yeah. They'll just swoop down and just take food out of people's hands, and
That's
it'll be not just
wild.
one. It'll be a whole bunch of them. It's really funny. It's not so
That's
funny if it's
wild.
you, which has happened to me.
Oh no.
But yeah,
Wow. Yeah, we call them rats with wings over here, but
yeah.
I've never personally, I don't, I mean, I haven't spent a ton of time at the beach, but I've never seen one actually attack someone. That is so funny.
Oh yeah, over here they're
Uh,
vicious.
that's funny. So we talked about music that you listen to. Do you have any other quirks about your creative process, or is it, tell me, are you a plotter? Are you a pantser? How does that go for you when you're writing?
Yeah, yeah. I only just learned those. I didn't know plotter and pantser. I didn't even know what a pantser was. I had to look it up a little while ago. So I've never been like sort of part of a writing community until just like last year or so. So I didn't know any of the terminology. It's a little bit of both. Like I think everyone is. I've got an idea of the gist of where I want everything to go, and then as I'm building up the characters along the way, then they start to make decisions for me because I know who they are then.
Hmm.
So yeah, once I've figured them out, then it starts to flow a bit better. Like with Hot Dose of Hell, I knew I wanted everyone to wind up in that hotel at the end,
Hmm.
and then once they get to the hotel, who they were dictated what happened from that point on.
Okay, that's very cool. It's like, okay, I've brought you here. Now show me what you're gonna do.
Yeah, in this situation, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's really cool. Yeah, it's definitely I think the best stories definitely come from a mix because even if you plot everything out to, to every detail, it's going to change because as you're writing, things just flow and your characters change their minds and they make their own decisions sometimes. So
yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. So I want to know about the place that A Hot Dose of Hell was based off of. Is it Skarmoth? Is that how you say it?
yeah, yeah. Spot on.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Is
Um,
it based off of a real place or is it or just that place that every place kind of has in its own country, I guess?
yeah, it's kind of a mixture of places. So I'd say over the last couple of decades, the British seaside towns they've all gone into decline. I'd say I saw it unfortunately. I think the town I grew up in was in a good place when I was growing up, and then when I came of age, it was going downhill. And
Mm-hmm.
there's lots of places like that. That well, it used to be that tourism was big um, in Britain, but it's down south, for example, and it's not really anymore. It's sort of been killed off a bit. I think the cheap flights thing was everyone just for a couple hundred quid you can pop over to Spain, So that kind of killed it. The kind of drinking and clubbing culture has been absolutely throttled over here, in my opinion, and that was all part of the appeal of those towns. So I worked and grew up in a few towns that were like that. So I took all the worst elements of those places and cranked them up to horror movie levels.
Okay. That makes it, I mean, yeah, the way you portrayed Skarmoth, it's like I pictured towns in my area that are like that. And I just, we all kind of have that place that's, I think you described as like a stain,
Yeah,
in the area. And we all can, if we're not living near one, we know what that's like. And so that makes a lot of sense. Um, Going off back to the characters, sort of. So we deal with some tough topics. We deal with, drug addiction and, going off of the state of Skarmoth, we deal with sort of people living alternative lifestyles. Was that a hard mindset to get into while you were writing?
yeah, a little bit. Yeah, definitely. Um, but I had a lot of input from that sort of world around me. So I was just taking things that I'd experienced to a degree or things I heard about and just sort of putting it out there. But yeah, I mean it's a sad topic to be going into, and I
Mhm.
found particularly those first couple chapters about Roxy and Kenny, and Roxy's sort of hit that absolute rock bottom now where she's about to start selling herself. That
Mhm.
was that was tough to write. That was really like tragic sort of scenes to write. Um, yeah, so it's tough. It's definitely tough to talk about
Yeah.
stuff like that. Well, you know yourself with some
Yeah,
of the things
I
you've hit on in your book.
for sure. I liked the way that you portrayed Roxy because even like you made her out to be not, she wasn't what she was doing. She was another person. Like there was more to her than that. She was just a person caught up in these circumstances. And
Yeah,
so Roxy's character was really enjoyable. You just really, really wanted Rhonda to come save her and rescue her from all those things. So just definitely kudos on how you wrote Roxy's character, because I imagine that could not have been easy to do. All right, let's see. So can you tell us about Violent Ends? Because I have not gotten to
mm,
get into that one yet, so
okay,
I'm curious about that one.
sure. Yeah, so Violent Ends is a trilogy of horror stories. Um, it's sort of people getting their just desserts. It's kind of like they're kind of grim morality tales in a way, but really grim morality. Like a little bit inspired by things like Tales from the Crypt and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one of my favorite horror books of all time is the Clive Barker's Books of Blood. Don't ask me to pick one in particular out of those six, but I just love them all. So it's very much inspired by that. I wanted to have sort of different flavors throughout the book, but it all to feel like it belonged together. So there's some supernatural horror in this one. There's three stories altogether. One's about a serial killer on the prowl for his latest victim, and she may or may not, she may be more than what she seems. Um, the second one is about a church that's being converted into a nightclub by this dodgy businessman. And in the process of converting this church, what they've done is disturbed something that's been trapped in the walls.
Ooh.
Yeah. Um, and then the third one is about a bunch of home invaders on a bit of a rampage. They're like escaped uh, criminals, and they're breaking into houses. And there's every situation gets worse in every house they break into. They can't seem to catch a break
Oh,
because they're just too vicious. Every time they go in somewhere, they just cause problems, and yeah, it sort of comes back on them when they pick the wrong house.
that sounds super cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get into that pretty soon. That sounds awesome. Um, are you working on anything right now?
Yeah, I'm working on a slasher revenge story set near Skarmouth again, sort of the neighbouring town, but there's a bit where
Ooh,
there is a sequence where they go to Skarmouth, and it's about sort of the past sins of this sort of criminal gang coming back to haunt them, basically.
that
I don't
sounds cool.
really want to say too much
No,
more.
no, yeah, I know. I know. It's always hard when people ask, like, what are you working on? It's like, well,
Yeah,
I've really just got the main plot points, and that includes a lot of spoilers, so I don't want to
exactly. Yeah,
say.
you don't know how. It's like when you come to write your blurb at the end, and you're like, how do I sum this up in a couple paragraphs, make it sound good, and not spill the beans?
Yes, that is the worst part of being an author is the blurb.
Yeah,
I wrote like 17 and sent them
yeah.
out to like so many people, and I was like, "What do you think? What do you think?" And at the end, I went with one that was not any of those 17. So, yeah, it's painful. All right, we are going to take a moment to shout out some people who have joined us. Let's see. We have SS, thank you. Dark Veil Society gang. We've got some of my friends joining Seagulls, the chickens of the air. Yes. Thanks for being here, David. Let's see. We've got Blake, Dark Veil Society. Go read books. Thanks for being here. And Grumpy Andrew. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is already a lot of fun. Let's just take a moment away from book stuff and what are some of your favorite movies? We talked about 80s, like horror slasher films. What
Yeah.
other kind of movies do you enjoy?
All kinds. I love all the action movies of that time, leading up to the 90s as well. I love all that stuff. Um, but I like epics like Gladiator and things like that. I like,
So good.
yeah, it's a great movie, isn't it? Like all that, that was a good run of movies we had sort of from Gladiator. They did a
Mm-hmm.
whole bunch around that time. Yeah, Troy and Kingdom of Heaven
Yes.
and Last Samurai and that. It was all good stuff. So yeah, I'm pretty broad. I like, like some of the superhero stuff, not any of the the current stuff, but some of that.
Hmm.
A little bit of fantasy, particularly the 80s fantasy things like Conan. I'm very much stuck in the 80s, I think.
That's okay. That's okay.
But
Have
yeah,
you seen the new Gladiator?
I have not. No, no,
I
I've heard not very good things. Was it all right? Or
I haven't seen it. I've heard mixed things, so I'm like, I don't
yeah,
know if I should watch it or not watch it. Chat, if you've
yeah,
seen it, let us know. Is it worth it? Because man, the first one was just such an epic movie, and I just when
yeah.
I heard they were making a second, I was like, how can you add on to that? There's
What's the point? Yeah, that's how
exactly
I
like
felt
you
about
can't
it. Yeah,
follow that.
no.
Yeah, for sure. All right. What about TV shows? Favorite TV
TV
shows?
shows. Oh, I just got finished watching Mr. In Between. Have you seen that?
I have not.
That's brilliant. I don't often, I haven't found a good TV show for quite a long time. And this is a really good one. It's an Australian crime drama comedy about a
Okay.
hitman. And yeah, it's amazing how it will make you laugh one minute and it'll have then suddenly, really like stomach churning, like tension. And
Oh
then,
wow.
and then there'll be a ton of action and then it'll make you cry. Like, honestly, I like one of the best shows I've seen since I don't know, something like The Sopranos.
Okay.
Yeah,
That sounds good. I don't get a ton of time to watch TV because mostly when like my husband and I are home in the evening, it's the whole dinner and working out and meal prepping, and then if we get a chance to sit down, well, we have the kids too, so we have to
yeah,
watch something kid appropriate. But we've been watching The Office, which like 10 years ago, if you'd asked me about The Office, I'd be like, nah, it's not my thing. But it's actually kind of growing on me, so it's a nice cozy watch at the end of the
yeah.
day.
I like some of those.
Um,
There's some of those
yes,
where you just don't need to think about it. Yeah, I went through
exactly.
Monk. That's one. It's
Okay.
an American show about the detective guy, and he's got OCD, and that's how
Mhm.
he's able to spot stuff. That was good, cozy watching for a few seasons. I enjoyed
Yeah,
that.
for
Yeah,
sure. For sure. Let's see. Yeah, I don't feel like there's a lot of great horror TV shows that I get into. Like I loved Peaky Blinders and The Last Kingdom and like Sons of Anarchy, which I guess could be horror in a lot of ways, but I just
yeah.
don't have
It gets
any
pretty
spec
gruesome.
Yes, yeah. Oh, yep. And the yeah, Mr. Robot is a really good show too, except my husband and I stalled on watching it for too long, and then I don't know, it's not free anymore. So now you have to pay to watch the rest of it. And so I don't know, maybe we'll never know what happens. But we suggested it to my friend Stormy and he like binge watched it in like I don't know how long it was, Storm. It was like a couple days, but it was probably really good. I may never know. um
Never enough time, is there?
There's really not, between all the things, writing and working and adulting and all the things. So, what are some of your favorite authors or just some of your favorite books?
Favorite books. If we're talking horror, I would say I Am Legend. I think we spoke about this before, actually. I
Mhm.
Am Legend. Really love that book. I think it's brilliant. I think that's the one that sort of seems to have inspired every sort of post-apocalyptic thing that's come since. The idea of how this guy's day to day of how he has to deal with this problem and still survive and
Right.
cook his meals and just kind of get on with life and how he's had to adapt to it. I think loads of stuff has kind of followed on from that. I think that's the first, like the oldest thing I can think of that has that. And it's brilliant, excellent book. The Books of Blood, which I already mentioned, because
Mhm.
Clive Barker's demented imagination was just completely out there, and I loved it. I loved like the Midnight Meat Train, and have you read any of those?
I have not.
Oh, you're missing out. Definitely need to try the Books of Blood. Yeah, it's just taking like often like quite everyday stuff, and then just around the corner there's something completely fantastical. Like Candyman was in the Books of Blood. It was called The
Okay.
Forbidden. So the
Okay.
original story was in that. So that gives you the idea of the kind of stuff that's in there.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
What about
Um,
non-horror?
Non-horror. Well, one of the influences for me was some of Irvin Welsh's stuff, like
Okay.
Train Spotting, things like that.
Okay.
Um, so that's, yeah, like the way he uses accents and dialect and the kind of subject matter as well. So Trainspotting's a good one.
Okay.
That's one of my favorites. I was lucky enough to be able to blag my college to let me study that one as the book that I had to study one year. So
Nice.
that was good.
Nice.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
always nice when you get to pick a book that you actually enjoy versus like, here's this really generic book that's 100 years old. And some people it may enjoy that. I just know that the books I had to read for, school or college were just not it.
it weren't fun. No,
No.
no. We had Jane Austen. I remember. I think we read two or three Jane Austens or something one year. That was painful. Like, how do you expect a bunch of kids, more even less, a bunch of lads, to sit through
Right.
Jane Austen for a year?
Yeah. We had and this was actually I kind of attribute this book that we read I think in junior year of high school. We read I think it's called The Awakening by Kate Chopin, if I'm saying
Right.
that right. And it's I mean it's 100 years old, and I remember my teacher was talking about it and she was like, don't you guys see that she uses this bird in this paragraph as this symbolism for wishing she were free. And that kind of set a stage for me in a way that I was like, okay, if you're going to be an author you have to include all this like symbolism and hidden meanings, and that sounds really difficult, so that's not really anything I'd ever be interested in. And then I the more I started reading books I was like, well, maybe it doesn't have to be, but that I don't know,
Yeah.
that book just left such a strange, she's like, what does the water symbolize, what are the clouds, I'm just like, this is too much, this.
Yeah.
But
It's not. Yeah, if it doesn't grab you, if it doesn't do it for you, then like you don't have to. It doesn't have to be that. That's the thing. You
right.
feel like what that English teacher likes. She's saying this is what it has to be, and it's like no, it can be anything. It can be very simple. Like Richard Stark, crime author.
Hmm.
I love his stuff. It's actually an alias for Donald Westlake, and his stuff is very very simple. Uh, it's very to the point, but it
Right.
really works. He doesn't use a lot of like very colorful language or anything like that. It's just
Yeah,
actions and detail. It's good.
that's excellent. Yeah, I find that my brain is usually just in so many places at once that if I'm reading something that demands like me to figure things out, like I think that's brilliant and I love that books do that, but especially if I'm listening to audio or in my bed and it's already an hour past my bedtime and I'm just trying to get a chapter in and you want me to think for myself now. Like
Yeah,
I it's a lot. So
yeah,
I prefer when books are just here's what's happening and it's it's scary or crazy or I'm just going to tell you like how this is going, and that's my preference, but
yeah. I think it's the
everyone
difference
has it.
between books that are for everyone or for anyone, and books that are for you know middle upper class intellectuals who've got a lot of time on their hands and want to sit and think like that. But your regular person just wants to be entertained for a
Hmm.
bit. You just want to get a chapter in and see where the story's going, not
Absolutely.
go through all that.
Absolutely. All right. I Am Legend, the book is absolutely fantastic. Too bad they never made a movie of it.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, Adam. I have a hot take in my video about, books versus movies, and I
I
did very
saw.
much enjoy the book. I enjoyed this movie better.
Yeah.
Um, the book was just not to say that this takes away from it, but it was a lot of solo internal monologue. And so then you compare it to Will Smith and he's just running around the city and talking to mannequins. That's
Yeah.
what really takes the
Totally
cake for
different.
me.
Yeah.
But that's one that I enjoyed, that they made it different, but they still made it good, I guess. Because we can sit and talk about World War Z and the how they just did not do that book justice. I Am Legend kind of switched it up and still, in my opinion, made it a good movie.
Yeah.
Have you seen World War Z or read the book?
I read the book. I really enjoyed the book. I read it quite a long time ago, but I thought it was a really cool idea. I think it would have made a better series with a different
Mhm.
episode being like a chapter. Because
Right.
I loved all the different scenarios that were going on and how the different countries, you know, dealt with the problem and the way
Yeah.
that they suffered was different. Like I can't remember where it was. Was it like Haiti or somewhere? And people were like living in shacks, and the zombies were just like crashing through the
Hmm.
shacks to just there was
Yeah.
no like barriers for them. and then there was somewhere up north when the zombies are like thawing out of the snow every year,
Mm.
and they're having to
Yeah.
go and shoot. So that was great. There's some great stuff in there, really cool ideas.
Yeah. It's
So
there's definitely a lot to unpack in that book. I plan on rereading that one in its physical form because audio, I just don't get a chance to really slow it down and kind of absorb everything.
yeah,
So it was a great audio. It has like 30 different people, like celebrities that play the cast of all the
oh, that's
people.
cool.
Yeah, it was very cool, but I would like to go over it again and kind of take my time with that one.
Yeah.
I liked green eggs in it. Look, my husband is gonna be so mad because I'm gonna tell you guys he is a reader. He likes to pretend not to be, but he listens to audiobooks, which absolutely makes him a reader. So now that's out there in the world. You're welcome. Let's see.
Secrets.
World War Z was also killed by the director leaving halfway through the production. That's why it's so disjointed. Okay, that's interesting. I did not know that, but that is interesting. Yeah, the zombies in that were absolutely terrifying and they were so fast and then I don't know. The end, I'm not going to spoil the end of the movie for anybody who has seen it, but I don't like a clean cut and dry, hopeful, happy ending. And World War Z, the book doesn't really end. It just ends with the story that it's on, and then there you go. And you've already had so many ups and downs and laughs and cries and terrifying things in your head. But with the movie, it just felt too tidy for me. I don't like a tidy ending, like, oh, all of a sudden everything's fine. I know a movie only has so much time, but it wasn't my preference per se.
I don't think I finished the movie. I watched a chunk of it. I switched it off.
Maybe you watched the first half, the part that was good.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So were there any other horror books that I don't know if I cut you off and jumped to non-horror books or
Any other horror authors? Yeah, James Herbert. I like James
okay.
Herbert a lot. Have you read any James Herbert?
I have not.
Oh,
I know.
James Herbert's
I'm
great. They sometimes call him the godfather of splatterpunk. So he's like, well, it's very like his early books particularly were like really like gritty and very gory, and he sort of pushed the boundaries. He was one of the ones who brought the like really explicit gore
hmm
into the mainstream a bit, and
okay.
then from that there was like a whole movement through the 80s where you then got Clive Barker and Sean Hudson and stuff like that as well. So they were very big over here. I don't know how they were in America,
Okay.
but
Very
yeah,
cool.
they're
I'll
a
have
lot
to
of
check
fun.
them
I
out.
like him a lot.
Yeah. I'll have to check them out. That sounds really cool. Add to my ever-growing TBR.
Oh no, tell me about it.
Yes. Let's see. So one thing that this might not actually come out as a question, maybe just some praise, but if you have anything to add, feel free.
Cool.
One of my favorite things about Hot Dose of Hell was the descriptions. I know as a writer, we have this weird place that we have to balance ourselves between coming up with unique descriptions but not sounding too wordy or like we're trying too hard to make a unique
Yeah,
description. And the balance of yours I thought came off perfectly. Like they hit at the exact right moments. And in my review I'd written about how like if you had a cliche description, it was perfect because of the timing, because I was trying to race through, and like that's when I think a cliche description is fine, when you're in a fast paced scene
yeah. You
and
don't want to
you're trying
disrupt
to
it.
exactly.
Yeah,
But the descriptions that you came up with at times, like the one that stuck with me, one of them was when she's wiping a porthole in the steam of the mirror, and I
oh
was like,
yeah.
a porthole, that why, like, it's so brilliant because it was just perfect. And so I don't know if there's like anything that you had that you used to come up with these, or if it just comes out in the writing, but they were brilliant, all of
But
them.
we'd say that about a bad window cleaner, that they're just wiping portholes. They're not doing the job properly.
Okay. Okay.
So that's probably where that came from. That's just that, yeah. But yeah, so some of it's just things that come naturally that I hope someone's going to get where I'm coming from with this. And then sometimes it's something where I really want you to stop and really think about the thing that I'm describing and
Hmm.
get that detail.
That's incredible. Yeah, and then another one of my favorites are when the two people are falling down the stairs. You describe it as an arachnid tangle of limbs. And
Yeah,
I just my brain just doesn't function the same way, so like I just never would have pictured it as, I mean, it makes sense. It's eight limbs falling down the stairs together, and it
yeah,
was a great setup. A lot of us, we just kind of play movies in our minds when we're reading, and I still have that hotel in my head as to how it looked like and the characters, and so them falling down the stairs. I really, really enjoyed that.
cool. Yeah. I actually have seen people fall downstairs a few times in that situation when I
Oh,
was a bouncer.
oh,
Lots of the places we worked had a lot of stairs, so sometimes the guys would be wrestling and two people would go over together just like that, and that was what it kind of looked like, just this mad tangle of limbs tumbling down
wow.
the stairs. Yeah.
So you are a stair falling expert.
Yeah.
Incredible. That's funny. Okay, we got a hot take in the chat. It makes him a listener. Just kidding. Ducks and runs. Audiobooks are reading friends. I read a book recently where the ending
Oh,
literally involved the whole town standing up and clapping for the main character. I was not about that. Oh man,
yeah.
that's funny. He doesn't mean this. He's no. No, thank you. Audiobooks are reading. That stair scene was legit really exciting. It really was. And yeah, I loved every moment of all the descriptions. This is probably going to make me sound like a person who needs help, but every time there was like this horrific scene, I was like really about to just like giggle and like kick my feet, and it's
That's
like, this
great.
is beautiful horror. I loved it so much. Yes, took notes. Oh, see you later, Blake. Thanks for hanging out.
Cheers, Blake.
Oh, so they just happened to fall down the stairs.
Yeah, you know,
No help
slippy.
from you whatsoever.
No, I just pick them up after
uh,
and gently help them out the door.
so were your two I don't know what to call them. I want to say they're like mobster guys. I really love those characters too, by the way, because they were so
Fred and Pinky,
different
yeah.
and they worked together so well, even though they were so just like complete opposites. I'm assuming that probably had a lot to do with um, just past inspirations. Did you have any other assistance in creating those in your head?
Oh no, those were people I knew pretty much. There's like
Okay.
little bits of people I knew.
Yeah.
Fred, Fred's like some of the old guys I met when I sort of first started doing that kind of work.
Hmm.
He's lots of bits of those kind of people, and Pinky's a little bit. He's got the moodiness of some people, and he's also got kind of some of the. I did used to work security with a Polish fella, and he would never, when you'd make like a cultural reference or something, he'd never have a clue what he was talking about. And so when Pinky and Fred are always, he's referencing something, and that was where that came from.
Yeah, he's
So
like,
their
nothing
banter.
really. You don't know.
Yeah, yeah. You don't know this song, you don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, because he didn't have a clue because it's like he explained to me that like loads of like Western media was not allowed in Poland when he was growing up. It
Okay.
literally was not allowed. So he
Wow.
had no idea about things, and I'd talk about something that like you expect everyone to know, and every time he'd go, "No, I'm from Poland. They didn't allow it." you know?
Wow.
Yeah,
That's wild. But that goes to show, like, some people just assume that if you know about something, that everybody knows about something,
yeah,
or that if you experience something, has experienced something. So it's definitely like daylight savings with.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so chat, I just want you guys to know that everybody is here on time because Steve is much more intelligent than I am when it comes to things of the world. He messaged me yesterday and he was like, "You guys just had daylight savings, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, we did." And I'm thinking we as in like the entire world. So, fun fact, England has not had their version of daylight savings. So, when I announced that we were going to be doing this, I had us 5 hours apart. But actually, right now we are only 4 hours apart. So the more you know.
You'd have been sat here on your own for an hour.
I know, I'd been like, man, he stood me up. Oh man, yeah. Steve likes to push them down up the up escalator so they fall longer. That darn
I'm getting
Steve.
a reputation now. I've left all that behind.
It all started here. You guys heard it here. Speaking of hearing it here, I will tell you guys that so my YouTube videos come out every Wednesday. My video for tomorrow will be on A Hot Dose of Hell. So it's going to go over a lot of the things that I went over in my FanFi Addict review, but instead of you reading it, you get to hear it from my voice. And we're going over some of it today, but be sure to check it out because it'll be awesome. I also made a mistake in that video, so you'll get to see another one of my little pop-ups that say, "Wow, Molly's dumb."
Great. I look forward to that.
Wait until Molly finds out Arizona, Hawaii, Guam, Puerto Rico, Marianas, and Virgin Islands don't ever change the clocks. What?
Ah,
Wow, that's interesting. Just
news to
never?
me as well.
No daylight savings that's okay. See, the more you know. I learn something every day. That's super cool. So I want to know. So when did your first book come out? What year?
2021.
2021. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever think about trying traditional, or was indie always the way? Can you tell us more about the decision there?
Yeah, sure. So for a few years, I've been writing short stories and looking at small presses and things like that. And I saw the kind of submission calls and the sort of requirements they were putting out. And it became very clear to me that if I wrote a novel, it would not be welcomed. And then when
Right.
I wrote that novel, the content of that novel is definitely something that would not be welcomed by traditional publishing. So, being as most of the people working in the traditional publishing seem to have similar attitudes to the leg up crew, I would say they'd be quite insulted by it.
True. True. Yeah. That's the beauty of self-publishing, is that we literally get to write whatever the heck we want, and then we get to publish it, and there's just a lot of freedom there. We don't have to, I mean, of course we have to worry about what our readers think, but there's an audience for everything. So yeah, I thought it was really well done. I mean, I totally get what you're saying, that a lot of traditional publishers would not have. I understand why you say that it wouldn't have been the content that they would have wanted, but I don't think that it was. I mean, you weren't in there like absolutely horrifically bashing crowds of people. I mean, kind of everybody got it in in A Hot Dose of
Yeah,
Hell to some
yeah.
degree,
I
and
think that was
I
pretty fair.
just yeah, exactly. I think that was part of what made it more real, and just made it enjoyable, because there wasn't really, it wasn't like it had an agenda, if that makes sense. It was
No,
just to be realistic, and there's groups of people like this, and there's groups of people like this, and I don't care, I'm taking all of
exactly.
them out.
Yeah. It's not politics, it's an observation, and it's going, oh, I've seen some people acting like that, I'm gonna take them and put them in this situation, basically. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I enjoy that. And it's fun kind of watching how that plays out, especially in A Hot Dose of Hell. Hey Grim, thanks for being here. All right.
What about
So
you with publishing? Did you ever think about trying to go for the traditional route, or
So with my emergence on the scene, I didn't know anything about traditional publishing. I just assumed it was only for people like Stephen King, and I just assumed that there was these big corporations that just sought out people who were already famous authors.
yeah,
I didn't know about the querying process until I started, trying to push in on Twitter and talk to people, and I saw their posts of like, agent rejection or agent accepted me or this, that, the other. And I was like, oh, okay, so there is a process for that. Um, I just it never really crossed my mind. I was pretty set on my story and how it went. And for people who know and, about my book. It's a lot of my real life stuff kind of put into a fictional version. So I didn't want anybody in there like, well, you got to take this out. Well, you got to change this. Well, we don't like this part because like this is how I want it to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, very much similar. I wasn't so much worried about content per se, but more just I needed it to say things in a very specific way, and I didn't want anybody entangling themselves within that.
Yeah. Not
So
messing with
I
your
think
baby, basically.
exactly,
Yeah.
and I think both routes. There's definitely both routes are fantastic, and I think that attempting to do the trad way is definitely for some people. It's just not for others. And I mean, kudos to the people that send out query letter after query letter and handle those rejections. And I maybe I would have tried it if I had known it was a thing. I just simply didn't know.
Yeah. Fair enough. I think you could spend a lot of time where you could have already written another book while you're trying to get it to an agent or to a publisher or whatever, and you could already have another book out and be just building your own
Yeah,
following.
that's a really good point. And I've indie books are we're gaining traction every year, I
Yeah.
think. And I mean, a lot of readers are starting to figure out that what's being traditionally published, I mean, you can find a little bit of everything, but what's being pushed to the front of the market is the same stuff. And some readers want something different. Now, I'm not knocking the genre we all know I'm talking about, which is, romantasy and things like that, because people like what they like, and people that like that, that's totally fine. But there's other things out there, there's other readers that want other things. And indie is where you find those other things, those unfiltered, those untampered by editor type things. So we're breaking through, and with things like idiosyncrasy and things like I'm trying to do, just like with my little reviews, not that a whole bunch of people see them, but like things like people putting themselves out there and putting the indie authors out there will get there, and it gives readers another place to discover something that is not the norm, not what they typically pick up from traditional bookstores. So we are getting there, friends. We are getting there. You can 3 years querying, and that's not even finding a publisher. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You could spend so
Especially you,
much
Amy.
time.
Speed you go.
Yes. And all five of those books would be at least 200,000 words.
Yeah.
Oh man. So friends, we'll talk about the Dark Veil Society just for a minute. I know we talk about it a lot. If you don't know what we are, who we do, Steve Stark is actually one of our members. I'm a member of the Dark Veil Society. We are a group of horror writers who we're slowly picking up and trying to branch out and do more things. But at least for right now, our purpose is support and hype. We have our little Discord, we hang out, we ask questions, we read each other's work. It's a nice place to ask the questions that we don't really want to put out there on social media, whether it might be spoiler involved, or some people in there, I don't know who, but some people might ask like inappropriate questions. Definitely not Molly. But we share posts that we want hyped up, or just announcements. And so it's a really, really cool thing that we've created. In the future, I want to do more things like this, some live streams, us hanging out together, a website where all of the Dark Veil Society can be found. We're thinking about collaborations too, like maybe a collection of short stories. So yeah, that's who we are, and you're gonna see Dark Veil Society probably all over, especially if you're on Twitter. That hashtag is gonna be everywhere on our posts. But not everybody knows who we are or what we do, so that is us, and definitely look forward to more things in that area. All right, so we talked about pretty much everything that I had listed, I believe. Do you is there, other than writing, do you have any other hobbies that you want to share?
Yeah, sure. My wife got us into paddleboarding the last couple of years. So we live
Okay.
not too far from a beach, only about a mile away from a beach. So We go paddle. It's getting to that sort of season now as well, so I'm really looking forward to getting back out on the ocean and exploring the coast again. It's great fun.
That's really cool. Just watch out for those seagulls.
Yep.
How, so are you experienced with paddleboarding, or is this something you guys are learning together?
Yeah, we just kind of figured it out for ourselves. We just bought a couple of boards. Well, Jen bought a board first. We didn't have a clue what we were doing. It's like I didn't. It's inflatable one, and I didn't pump it up enough the first time we used it, and like yeah, holding the paddle the wrong way, thinking it was going right, and figuring out how to stand up on it. So a bit of YouTube and a bit of trial and error, and you sort of figure it all out.
That's
And
very
now we go
cool.
pretty far. Now we'll go out and we'll do like sort of 10K on the boards. Yeah, and
Whoa,
just go around the coast and sort of pulling in at different beaches and stopping there for a bit and seeing things, finding little sea caves and cruising through. Yeah, it's really cool. See
sea
some
caves.
wildlife. Yeah.
That is really cool. That sounds like, I bet, oh my gosh, that sounds awesome. Sea caves. I want sea caves. My husband and I, for the longest time, we did canoeing,
Oh yeah.
and which is, we have this little river nearby, and it's really fun. But with canoeing, especially because we have the little ones with us. I mean, there was one time when we had an entire potty training chair on the canoe with us. And with kids, you have like 17 bags, and there's like snacks and towels and all the things. But my kids are getting older, so we started switching over to kayaks. My oldest has
Cool.
her own kayak, and I'm I'm so spoiled. I'm like, that means I'm gonna have to paddle myself. And I'm thinking like canoes are like hard to paddle because we have always so much weight, and sometimes we'll have a couple dogs, the kids, the bags. Kayaking has been actually really nice. It's so easy. It's way easier to maneuver through. Like a lot of times the river we go down, it has like really shallow spots, and when you're in a canoe, then you got to get everybody out and pick it up and move it. The kayak is just a lot easier to maneuver. So we're getting back into that season soon here
Nice.
too. So I'm really excited to do some kayaking. Paddleboarding sounds like a lot of fun too. I know that we looked at some of those. I think our river, like we live in more of a rural area, so we don't have as much open water to traverse. So a
Yeah.
paddleboard would be a little more difficult.
I've never
But
tried it in a river. I'm always down by the ocean. It's going to be different. Lots of
right.
people do it in lakes. I'm like, why? It's a lake.
Yeah, you can
See it?
just yeah, exactly. You just swim around and
What's
hang
the
out.
point?
Yeah. What kind of wildlife do you see when you're out there other
You
than
see,
seagulls?
other than seagulls, actually, we're lucky. The place we go to has a lot of cormorants, which are bigger blackbirds, and they seem to keep the seagulls away from this area, which is quite
Nice.
nice. They seem to not like them, so we see a lot of them. There'll always be like kind of drying their feathers off on the rocks, like posing with their wings out and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Um, then seals, quite often see big seals. Yeah,
I'm
and
jealous.
there, I had one that was following me for quite a while the other day. Um, that was quite cool. Yeah, and there's basking sharks, although I've never seen one since we've been paddleboarding. They don't like proper sharks. They don't eat people or anything like
Okay.
that. But they are massive, so they are a bit scary if you see them in the water.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Um, and trying to think what else. Well, there's dolphins as well. If you're very
That's cool.
lucky, you'll see dolphins. I saw porpoises recently, so that was cool.
Okay.
Which are like small dolphins, basically.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, they're
That's
not as friendly
awesome.
or curious as dolphins, but if you didn't know, you'd think it was a dolphin that you'd
Right.
seen. Yeah, yeah, so it's pretty cool. We're very lucky for that. That's one of the very nice parts about living down here. You know,
Yeah,
so yeah.
that's awesome. What do you think the paddles are for? MMA with the seagulls. Oh, Triple B. Thank you so much for catching what little bit you
Thanks for
can.
popping in, mate.
Excellent. All right. So yeah, we have a little bit different wildlife. Some of the things that we see, well, I was gonna say the other day, last summer, I think on one of our last kayak trips, we actually got to see an otter
Oh,
swim
cool.
right underneath us, and that was really cool. We get to see herons, we get to see bald eagles, which is really cool
That's
because,
amazing.
the
Yeah.
only place I ever have really seen one is in like a zoo or a, wildlife and endangered wildlife refuge, I guess. But they hang out on the river, and what's funny is, we'll see them up in the tree, and once we get close enough, they'll fly off, but they'll just fly down river. So then we get further down, and we get to catch them several times
Oh, cool.
and see those, and they're just gorgeous. We also get to see turtles, snapping turtles. We saw one under
Whoa.
the water that was like probably 2 or 3 feet across, and so they're massive and
Yeah.
terrifying. The first time my husband and I ever went downriver, this was before we had kids. We were literally in a blow up raft, and we had a turtle following us for a while, and I'm like, he could just take a chunk right out of this raft and
And
I'd
you'd
be
sink.
done for. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, those things are massive.
Wow.
Snakes, of course, but if my husband's still in here, we won't talk about those. He can't stand snakes. And then fish. We like to fish while well, I say we, my husband likes to fish. I don't mind fishing, but I'm usually caught up with the kids. Just little bass
Nice.
and things like that. I think we've probably heard a beaver, when you get a little too close, they like to slap their tails and scare the crap out of you. And I don't know, we might have seen one, but if we did, it wasn't for long. Um, so yeah, definitely a lot of different
That's cool.
wildlife, but that's really,
Yeah.
I guess
Have you?
that's what you get when you're in totally different types of bodies of water.
Yeah, true. Have you had any close encounters or anything like that? Anything that's like interacted with you?
Um, I don't think so. We've seen some snakes, you know, hanging out on rocks and swimming by. Um, Nothing close. I think mostly they're just too scared. Whatever animal it is, they're too scared of us to really interact. I'm trying to think. I don't think we have. No, we've been lucky because I can tell you, if somebody had stepped on one of them snapping turtles,
Lose
they
some
probably would
toes.
lose a toe.
Ah,
Yeah,
I
for
watched that.
sure.
I used to watch that guy, the Turtle Man.
Okay.
Have you seen him?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I wouldn't fancy that. Just jumps in and grabs him. What's he playing at?
I know. Yeah. It's always fun to tell our kids that there's like alligators and sharks in the in the river. And then when we saw the really big snapping turtle, one of my kids was like, "Oh my gosh, it's an alligator." It's like, "No, it's okay." We also get to see the little box turtles. It's cool. We'll come up to like a branch that kind of hangs off into the water, and you'll see like 4, 5, 7 of them just
Oh,
basking
that's
in
cute.
the sun. And then when you get too close, you just hear plop 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 because they all jump in trying to get away from you.
That's really
But
cool.
yeah, we like doing the nature thing. We have a camper, so we're gonna be doing a lot of camping at different resorts and stuff like that. So that's
That's
always
cool.
fun. Yeah.
Do you sort of put the writing aside for that season a little bit and not do as much? Or do
I
you?
do. 'Cause my husband's like, just bring your laptop. You can write there. And I'm like, I don't, yeah, it's just, I need a certain mood, a certain scene. I do a lot of reading though. One of our either our last one or our second to last one, I finished Performances of a Death Metal Bard by Rob Lee and Janelle Sheeky's Death Cult in one weekend.
Hmm.
So I get a lot of time to read because the kids are off playing and we're just hanging out by the fire. There's nothing else
Hmm.
to do. I don't have to like go and clean the house or there's just nothing I have to worry about. So I just bring my books and sit and read. So that is really nice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
kind of do the same. Like when it starts to get to that season, I'll write a little bit less.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's just a busier season
yeah, yeah. It's nice to get more reading done then as well.
for sure. For sure. It's easy to stay holed up in the winter time and write and kind of put yourself in the writing. I call this like my writing cave because it's typically
Yeah,
very dark. Uh, but in the summertime, yeah, the kids are home too. The kids will be off school and there'll just be lots going on. So definitely a busier season. That's why I'm trying to get this to where my sequel is ready to go by I want to say August, but by summertime I want it to be out there so that I don't have to worry about it over the summer.
Yeah. Oh, cool. I don't think I'm quite there with my next one yet. I'm
Yeah.
hoping I'll at least have it like finished, so where I'm going back and just revising and doing the other drafts. Well, we'll see.
How long does it I don't want to say how long does it usually take you because I know like different things can vary, but
Yeah,
well, Hot Dose of Hell, for example, how long did that take to write?
that took, if I concentrated it down, it was about a year.
Okay,
But I wrote like a few short stories in between and took like breaks from it.
for sure.
My stuff, I find that like sometimes I have to take a little break from it to figure out what it's about and where I'm going to go with it next.
Hmm.
So yeah,
That makes sense. Sometimes if you think about a scene too much, it's just it
yeah,
just dissolves in your brain and you can't
oh
think
yeah.
about it anymore. Okay. So, how long did Violent Ends take?
That was about a year, year and a half.
Okay.
It was a little bit disrupted because I was moving house
Yeah.
and moving jobs, and that's like two of the worst things you can do at the same time, really.
Yeah, I
So
can
yeah, so
imagine.
it's a bit disrupted, but I was still, for some reason, still plowing away at it during that time. Still getting up every morning and tapping away. So yeah,
Gotcha.
but I managed to get it done a year and a half, and I was waiting a little bit as well for the cover to get done
Hmm.
as well.
Okay. Speaking of covers, guys, if you can hold on, I'm really bad at making this line up. Okay, there we go. Look at that cover. That is so incredible. And this was not the first cover of this, correct?
Yeah, yeah. The original was slightly different. The original's got no fire on it, and the skull is wearing like a surgical mask, like a COVID mask.
Yeah. What made you switch it up?
I just wanted to update it. I felt
Okay.
like the at the time when I put the first one out, that was quite a provocative image
Okay.
with the mask and the syringes and stuff. So I wanted to change it, and I wanted to incorporate the hell aspect of
Yeah.
the title with the fire. So yeah, that's why we did that.
Very cool. I like both covers a lot. I like both. I'm not even gonna pick a favorite because I think Goodreads maybe still had the old cover. I saw
They
it
do,
somewhere
yeah,
recently. Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
they do.
And I was like, oh man, they're both just really, really cool. But I definitely can understand wanting to switch it up, especially if this I think this one fits better, especially for
Yeah,
the ending. No spoilers, but I
yeah.
I think that goes really well with a lot of aspects of the book. Did you do your own editing or how did that go, the editing process?
I did for the most part, yeah, and I used a couple of other readers as well to help me out.
Okay.
But yeah, again, it was one of those professional editors didn't want to look at the book, so
Right.
don't want their names on it.
Yep, I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
understand
This
that.
this sounds like a hot potato. I'm staying away from this.
Thanks for hanging out, Adam. Have a good rest of your day.
Cheers,
Oh,
mate.
and I missed. Oh, hold on. I'm clicking on. Oh, there's a bunch of us pretending to work right now. See you later. Thanks so much for hanging out. Nobody can tell you're teaching anyway. Kidding, Chris. Oh, come on. Oh, yeah, editing is a beast. Do you? I'm assuming you go through 7,000 rounds of edits before you even let anybody else's eyes on it.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm very like I sometimes I've been known to spend like a week on a paragraph. Where every writing session has been just about this this one paragraph for a week. I'm getting a little
It's
bit better at letting go now. Now that
mhm,
I've got more experience under my belt, but yeah, that's where you'll get some of those descriptions that I'm talking about that you were talking about earlier, where I'm really trying to find the sort of perfect way to put it without it disrupting the flow of anything, without it being too jarring.
yeah.
And sometimes I had good descriptions that I liked that were colourful, but I was just like, it just gets in the way. It's got to go.
Yeah, it's what do they say? Kill your darlings. Yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes it has to be done And yeah, I think going back and revising sometimes makes it easier because when you're writing the initial, you just like, I need to get this out. I need to, get the plot set in place. But then when you're going back and revising, you're like, ooh, I can fancy this up a little or make this a
Yeah.
little more horrific or, however. So that's, yeah, editing and revising. It's a beast of a task, but so, so important. And I was gonna say something else and then I totally lost my train of thought. So do you use beta readers or do you just have a couple people that check it out beforehand and then you send it off? How does that process work for you?
Yeah, a couple of people that check it out beforehand, and I spend so long on it that I'm pretty confident on it.
Pretty confident.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. I spend like probably too much time. I probably should just send it off to somebody, but I mean now I've got a bit of a network, so I'm all right. But when I did
Yeah.
Hot Dose of Hell, I had nobody. I didn't even have a social media account, so I was
Okay.
like completely blind. All I knew was a little bit about some of the publishers and different ones you could find and how they did things.
Yeah.
So I didn't know about stuff like that. So now I've got a nice network. Like I was very lucky. Like I had one person you might know, John Davies. He
Yeah.
wrote Muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah, he helped me out with Violent Ends.
That's
So yeah,
awesome.
so it's pretty cool to have people like that
Yeah.
now. So I really appreciate that it's grown. It was really funny sort of starting out because I felt like I was very much on my own for a
Mhm.
long time. I felt like it was like a good year and a bit
Yeah.
before like I met John or Nick Sledge or anyone like that. I was just kind of just putting out little memes and trying to interact with people, and people are
Yeah.
like, "Who's this guy?"
Yeah, I tell people, it's so hard to like get your foot in the door when it comes to social media because it's like, who are you? You
Yeah,
post a thing about a book and it's like, okay, okay, cool, you're another author, whatever. And really, it just takes one person to kind of give you a chance, if that makes sense,
absolutely. Yeah,
to really just share your work and kind of vouch for you, I guess. And then you just kind of pick up, but you have to keep at it. You have to keep posting, even when there's absolutely nobody, you know, um, paying attention to your posts or reading your posts or sharing your posts. You just have to keep posting. And I always tell authors, like, go to X. I know like people have their thoughts about it, but go there. There's a great community there. They're so supportive. You're
yeah,
not going to walk into X on with one day and just all of a sudden be the next best-selling author, but you just put into it, put some time into it, and you will get rewarded, whether it's readers or just people being there to support you. And
yeah.
yeah, the community is absolutely incredible. Everybody that I've met there, and I'm just absolutely obsessed with that social media
It's great.
site.
Yeah,
Oh no, are we getting hit by bots? Is that what's happening?
really.
This book funnel and yep, okay, hold on. I gotta be my own mod for a second.
Okay.
All right. All right. Yeah, we'll see if that helps. It says I have 596 viewers right now, so I'm not
Wow.
sure what's going on. Yeah, so bear
What
with
did we
me,
say?
chat. I know, right? Like, okay, so it's probably just I don't know. I've never used StreamYard before for these purposes, so I'm sure that yeah, yep, here they come. All right. Um, so this is interesting. All right. Well, you know what? We have gone over an hour now, and the bots have discovered us, and we must we must evade them. Is there anything else that you have that you want to just tell us about or add, or anybody you want to shout out? Just anything at all?
Well, I always shout out a few of my fellow indie authors. Obviously, we talked about a lot of the Dark Veil people already, so I'll just mention John Davies, who I mentioned already, um, Richard Nichols, who does the Red Pill Fiction Factory, Dave Bizan, who wrote In the Lair of Legends, J.L. Angle, who wrote Dangerous Man. I hope I'm not forgetting too many people. Oh, A.B. Patterson, who writes the Harry Kenmare stories. I'd like to just mention all of those guys. They're all people you should check out.
Absolutely. Yeah, Muscle and then A Dangerous Man are both on my TBR. I really want to get to those, and both incredible. Everyone you named is just incredible. So that was our first live stream, our first author interview on Where the Macabre Things Are. I will add the links in so you can buy Steve Stark's books after this is done, because I've heard Triple B say that, and I think that's how that process goes, is that you add the links in after. um, so thank you guys so much, everybody who is here. It just really means a lot to us. If you'll share the replay when it comes out, we really appreciate you. Thanks for just, I don't know, just even from the start, just for giving us a chance and definitely just having our backs. So thanks everyone for being here. Thank you, Steve Stark, for being such a wonderful guest on my very first live stream.
Thank
And
you
we
for
hope you
having me.
all, thank you. We hope you all have a wonderful day. That awkward moment. Bye, guys.